Good afternoon. You can all hear me well? Yes? Thank you so much for being such a welcoming audience. Well, first of all, perhaps a little bit about myself while we get the slides up. As I shared earlier, right, I work for Qualtrics. I lead the customer success team for EMEA North. EMEA North for us is our UK markets, Nordics and Benelux. And it's mostly enterprise level customers. We do have some corporate customers, but it's mostly, our enterprise level customers, so very much high touch, yeah? So what I'll be covering today is, as Robin shared, how to drive best practice renewal rates and smash expansion targets. I'll wait a minute until we get the slides up. Just let me know when you're ready. Just a little bit about myself. As I mentioned earlier, I've been in customer success roles for pretty much the last 14 years, ever since after I came and graduated at London Business School for my MBA. I started in customer success working for a startup, then went to mid-market, and now working for a multi-billion company. So really have seen the evolution of customer success and had lots of different flavors of customer success. So what I'll be covering today is, first, I thought it would be great to give you a little bit of context on what we do at Qualtrics, so share a little bit around our vision on experience management. Then I'm going to spend most of the session today sharing what I believe have been our guiding principles to truly be able to drive best-in-class renewal rates and expansion, and then I'll wrap up with a conclusion. So I'd love to know from the room, does anybody know Qualtrics? Have you heard about Qualtrics? Please, a show of hands. So it looks like we will have to do a lot of work still. Obviously we're a SaaS company, right? And we work on experience management. What we do is we take a holistic approach. Can you hear me well there? Yeah? We take a holistic approach to all of the experience disciplines. What do I mean by this? So we don't just look in isolation on customer experience or employee experience. We bring all the experience disciplines together, yeah? And we start with the brand promise. Why do we start with the brand? This is because it's a company's external symbol of its market value and the company's strength. And that brand promise is actually embodied by the products and services that a company delivers and shaped by the employees, which are the true brand ambassadors. All these disciplines together are what bring the customer experience. And this is a constant feedback loop, because it's the customer experience that reshapes and redefines the brand perception. So our solutions help our clients across all of these disciplines, and it's what helps companies to attract and retain customers and employees. Yeah? So at the bottom of the slide shared here, just to give you a sense of the size of our company, we work with 85% of the Fortune 500 companies across the globe. 2,600 of these customers are enterprise level across 41 markets. We also have a very strong academic sector, where 99 of the top 100 universities work with us to do their research projects, and this is where the company was born, pretty much. And we've also been enjoying quite substantial growth. So over the past, 13, probably nearly 20 years, we've been exponentially growing. Over the past year, it's been 40%, but before that, we've been growing at 55% year on year. Yeah. So that's a little bit about us. Now I'm going to move on to something that I feel quite strongly about, and it's, delivering results, right? So before we define best practices for customer success, I'd love to learn from the room, especially those CX practitioners that are measuring their teams on renewal rates. What's a good renewal rate? From 0 to 100%? 90? 95?
120.
Well, just renewal from 0 to 100. So for us, it's been 97%. To be precise, last year, all of last year, on average, we've been 97.5%. And I'm very proud of that result, yeah. It hasn't been easy. Now, and just so you know, this is just the data for all of last year. This year we are training towards those same numbers. I just don't have the full data set to share that. When we look at expansion rate, what's a good attainment on expansion that we can really say, yes, I smashed it? Hint, over 100%.
120.
120? I feel like I'm at an auction. 150? 125? Well, voila! And this has not been easy. It wasn't an easy target, trust me. I can't give the full amounts, but this is what we achieved last year, yeah? With a lot of hard work from an amazing team, but also a lot of alignment with cross functions, yeah. So these are our numbers for EMEA North. As I said, this includes enterprise and corporate, yeah. So important to highlight that. We are pretty much a high-touch team. So now moving on into the 5 guiding principles. And as in every business, it all starts with people. So we put a lot of focus on people and bringing in the right people into our team. When I joined Qualtrics a year and a half ago, I inherited a team of 6 individuals that were absolutely overachieving. And I have one of them here today. And that team now grew to 17. Yeah, so in a year and a half, we more than tripled our team. And for us, it was very important to look at bringing in the right people into the team. And, you know, putting a lot of focus on maintaining the culture as we were scaling up. This is where we spend a lot of time working with our talent acquisition team to truly define what were the right profiles of people that we needed to bring into our organization and will align with our culture. So what we looked at is, of our 250 CSMs that we had there, what were the backgrounds from these people that led to the best-in-class CSMs we had. And we landed on these 3 particular backgrounds that were very good and a very good fit for us. So it started with people that had a very strong consulting background. We also looked at program managers, just because of the nature of our solution. People that came with a very strong market research background were also doing very well. And last but not least, also former CSMs, but those that had a lot of focus on renewal rates and expansions, that had a very strong commercial acumen. Once we had that, we also put a lot of thought into our interview process. And I must admit, it is quite a lengthy interview process. Our candidates go anywhere between 6, 7, sometimes more interviews with us. We start with a typical one-on-one, but then have cross-functional interviews. We have case studies, and we also have a 1-hour dedicated fully to ensure that our candidates are fitting with our culture. At Qualtrics, we have a lot of pride on what we call our TACOS values. Those are our company values, which are transparency, all in, customer obsessed, and scrappy. And so we really have a very tailored set of questions to ensure that our candidates not only can do the job, but that they can fit with our company culture. Besides this top-down approach, when we're looking at people, we're also looking at managers, i.e. me here. So what we do is we also look at how our employees are assessing us as managers. And every quarter, we do a management effectiveness survey where my team gets to assess me as a manager. And trust me, they keep me on my feet here. And last but not least, you know, when you're working with people, you have to give them a clear vision, and you have to give them clear targets that are aligned with compensation. And here is where we work very closely with our compensation team, and we work and spend a lot of time ensuring that those targets that we're going to give to our employees are a stretch and ambitious, but still achievable. Right? So that's very much an art and a science. I'm going to double click on people, and this is the only guideline I'm going to double click on, just because I wholeheartedly believe that this is most important. When I'm interviewing candidates, I am often asked, what are you looking for in the ideal candidate? And I come back to these three things: book of business management, consulting approach, and technical expertise or product knowledge. All these three are absolutely key for a great CSM. Book of business management is all around managing the end-to-end customer relationship, bringing in all of the resources and helping our customers to navigate our, ecosystem. We need individuals that are very comfortable multitasking. My team manages everywhere from 2 very, very big clients to 25, yeah? And they need to be very comfortable, multitasking. They also need to have commercial acumen, focusing a lot on risk management and expansion, and I'll double click on that. Consultative approach. So we heard a lot today around trusted advisor. Definitely, that's how we want our clients to see us. And that's very, very, very important. And focusing on value realization and really ensuring that our customers are getting value from our solutions with a very clear ROI. And they need to help to drive adoption of the platform. And by this, I don't mean just go and train, but it's all around change management and governance. Because when we are working with enterprise level customers, it's not enough to do one-to-many trainings. You really need to help the customer and take them on that journey to fully adopt your solution across the company. And finally, technical ability or product knowledge. And not long ago, I read an article that I loved. It was a blog on CSMs, and there was this analogy that really stuck with me. And it was nobody calls a plumber to be told in your house how you go and fix your pipes, right? You're not going to do anything with that. You want actually a plumber that can come and do the doing. And the same thing applies for a customer success manager. Our clients don't want to just listen and hear from us on best practices. They want us to kind of like come in and really help them to see how do you do this with their setup. And the other thing I wanted to share is a little bit around the soft skills of a great CSM. And for me, it's all around being curious and courageous. And I always say that because great CSMs need to be comfortable to be uncomfortable. You need to be asking lots of very difficult questions to our customers. You need to be asking them, for example, what are their strategic priorities? You need to be asking for introductions. You need to have very difficult negotiation conversations. Yeah, and sometimes you need to tell them that their baby is ugly, that they're not really implementing best practices, and oh boy, how difficult that is, right? Not an easy conversation to have. So those two are super, super important too. And throughout the interview process, I also typically ask some questions that give me an indication of this. Very, very important to share, we have a very high bar at Qualtrics in hiring. Only about 20% of the candidates that interview with us get a job offer. So we're very, very strict, and we have a very specific set of questions to identify the right candidate for us. Guideline number 2. This is where we do a lot of territory planning. As I shared earlier today, one of the things that we put a lot of focus in customer success at Qualtrics is really doing a very thorough segmentation of our customers in 3 buckets: risk, nurture, and growth. And we use a proprietary formula for this that I can't share with you, but this is absolutely key to us. Because once we have this, we know which are customers that are at risk, and we need to build a risk mitigation plan, and which are the customers that we can grow. And we work very closely with our sales team to ensure that we have a very clear growth plan for each of the accounts that we're going to grow in a given year. Another important thing when we're looking, and I mentioned targets earlier, when we're looking at expansion for our CSMs, and they're doing their yearly planning ahead, one thing that we're doing now, is we ask them to keep an eye that, in order to hit their target, they need 3.5 times their pipeline to achieve that target. So they also have a very clear top-down approach to look at how they're going to achieve that. The third guideline is around running an operating model. So this is pretty much customer success, bread and butter. What do we do here is we try to take our customers on a journey and involve them in their life cycle. We work very closely with our CSMs to have a program governance to ensure that there are very clear roles and responsibilities and expectations, and that we have a very clear cadence. And this is where we use our templates to really help standardize the process of the operating model. And we have templates on, obviously, QBRs, product roadmaps, maturity assessments, executive meetings, and so on. This is pretty much everybody's bread and butter, I believe. One of the things that we spend a lot of time on is relevance and making sure that we have a very good quality of materials, especially for the QBRs. And we have refreshed this, and we call them QBRs to wow, where we really work on doing a lot of research on our customers to make sure that the content that we're sharing with them is relevant. The fourth guiding principle is around forecasting. And this is absolutely key to us. We forecast consistently every week. And we use Clary for this. I was talking a lot about this with many of you during the breaks. I love Clary. And we do forecasting every week where we look at individual contributor. We forecast at sub-territory level. We forecast at regional level. We forecast at global level. And then we also join the forecast calls with our sales teams to see how we're doing and tracking on expansion. And also to keep an eye on what's coming and who else I need to assign new accounts moving forward. So we invest a lot of time here. The last but not least guiding principle is aligning with cross-functional teams. And I must admit, right, I take a lot of pride in those results, but I'll be lying if I stood in front of you and I said all of this was done by my team by itself. It takes a village. It's super, super important to be aligned with cross-functional teams. And we have a lot of cross-functional teams at Qualtrics, but I simplified some of the key ones to us. The first one is alignment with sales, and we talked a lot about this earlier today. But for us, it's really to ensure that when we are selling to customers, we're selling on a promise that we can deliver. And here's where, on a quarterly basis, I have a meeting with sales and I share if there has been churn or there has been a downsell, what was the reason for it? And if there was misalignment on the sales process, it's something that we highlight and we try to learn from. We also need cross-functional alignment with our delivery team. And I mentioned the importance of making sure that we're aligning on customer expectations. So if there's an expectation gap, we really need to address it as soon as possible. And then last but not least, we need product, right? And with product, we need to ensure that we have alignment with our product team. We wouldn't have these amazing renewal rates if we didn't have a solid product and an innovative product. So constant feedback loop on the product roadmap is absolutely key. And helping our customers to adopt our solution and integrate it to other solutions so we can be really sticky is crucial. And last but not least, we have alignment with marketing. We work very closely with marketing to ensure that when we have good customer stories, we can leverage them. So we invite our customers to events to talk about their experience. We do case studies and videos. We also work with them on ensuring that we are working on referrals. We leverage our successful customers on referrals a lot. And we also do one-to-many events, user groups, thought leadership events, workshops, etc., both virtual and luckily nowadays face-to-face as well. So I'm going to go into a bit of a conclusion, right? So in a nutshell, these are the 5 principles together, right? Focus on people, conduct territory planning, really plan for those expansions and risks when you're doing that, run your CS operating model, and forecast consistently, and align with your cross-functional teams. This has been our recipe for success so far. Now, what's interesting is that what took us here won't take us there. As we mentioned several times throughout the morning, is we're facing very challenging times. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to be forced to do more with the same resources. I had the luxury of, scaling up my team last year or throughout this year. But as I move into the next year, my headcount is 0. Yeah. And the reason why this is because, as I mentioned earlier, we've been experiencing great growth, but we know that we're facing challenging times ahead. And I don't know if many of you heard about the rule of 40, but this is how us as a company are looking at this. There's a great McKinsey article that talks about the rule of 40. What this means is that in order to hit a tenfold market cap, we need to add up to 40 between operating margin and revenue growth. And so far, Qualtrics has been amazing on growth, but we're not going to be, over the next year, hitting those 40, 55, revenue growth. And because of that, we need to look at shrinking on operating margins, having more healthy operating margins, and we need to be more productive. So what we're coming into now is looking at, how do we automate? How do we create productivity and efficiency in the team? And we're completely looking to reshift the way that we've been working. And this is why I'm here in front of you today. It's actually not to brag about the great results, but it's to learn from you, because I think we're all going to be facing, in some way or form, the same challenges, right? So yes, that's been our journey, right? And something that we have to look into. And last but not least, I wanted to give you a personal reflection as we all come into, the end of year, and we're all looking at our checks and balances. Personally, I feel that in an obsession for results, my work-life balance hasn't been that great. I have given up time with my family, my 2 little girls there. I have given up time, not working out as much as I should have, slacking on that, not eating well, not sleeping well, right? And that's not a great role model for my team. And when I heard this morning Finley saying, 56 of your candidates actually care about well-being and flexibility, this really hit home for me, right? So something that we need to work on. This picture was taken by my nanny, and it's a constant reminder of some of the things I miss when I'm here, being a bit of a workaholic and giving up on time. So for those parents of little children, they grow fast. Make sure that you give that time to your family. And for those that don't have children, the same principle applies, because whether it's your partner, your friends, your hobbies, whatever you're passionate about work, about life outside of work, right? Give it the time as if you had a child and you had to take the child to hospital or, pick up. Ensure that you give yourself that time, because that's absolutely key. We owe it to ourselves, especially now that with COVID, the lines between our personal lives and work are so blurry, yeah. So yeah, our life outside of work can be amazing too, so just make sure that you give time for that, and you're a role model for your employees as well. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Yes? Yeah, I'm just really interested in those stats that you said. You mentioned at the beginning, 97.5% retention, really, really impressive. Can you just expand a bit more about the about the growth, the 300%. Was that like a net revenue retained number, or was it a growth compared to opportunities you closed last year, or what was it?
So from our book of business, we're essentially asked to expand that book of business by 20%. I can't give you the exact numbers, but it's 20% of your book of business. And so, as I said, right, it was a pretty big number for us. So we're just looking at basically expansion. So from our scheduled renewal rate, 20% on top. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
In order to make that 300% sustainable, do you have to continue releasing new product or new functionality?
Excellent question. Yes. So multi-product for us is key, right? So as I mentioned, we have a lot of solutions. So, I mentioned the 4 pillars on, brand experience, product experience, employee experience, customer experience. This is absolutely key to expansion. Absolutely key. So you have to have a very wide portfolio to be able to expand. And it's interesting because when I look at the potential that we have, it's still massive. Very, very few of our top customers are multi-product with us.
So the innovation piece isn't so important. You just have enough options already that saturation is rare.
Yeah, we haven't saturated at all. We still have a lot, but we are a very innovative product company as well. Every quarter, our product roadmap, I feel for our CSMs, they have so much to learn. Last time around it was nearly 100 slides on product roadmap innovation.
Maybe one question, apologies off the bat. So if you have quite an incremental product that you're continually upselling, do customers then look at that when times are hard and go, actually, there are pieces you can remove and it's not overly bundled? So actually, I'm thinking in this new economy when retention comes, if you have lots of different line items, that's easy to separate. Do you guys combine that all in one license?
No, we have separate licenses. Yeah, we have separate licenses. So mostly if you look at the pillars I shared earlier, EX, CX, BX, they're different licenses. Where we see the biggest growth typically is on CX, and second to that is EX. And where we have the most risk now is on EX, as companies are shrinking and looking at restructuring. That's where we're going to probably see a bit of an impact, and we have to work on that. But yes, we have separate items, separate licenses.
Natalia, great presentation. Thank you so much for that. You mentioned going into next year, like many of us, we're not getting a lot of headcount. Right? How are you thinking about doing, in line with the rule of 40, how are you thinking about doing the same or more with less?
Yeah, it's not going to be less. We're not looking at reducing our team, but it will be more with the same. And first of all, this is not just me, it's as a company, as a whole, we are looking at some massive change next year. I must admit, I don't know how much I can share on this, but I can give you some high-level headlines. One of them is, with a focus on productivity, have more closer alignment with our services team. One of the things that we're looking at is simplifying our engagement model with customers. So one thing that our customers typically complain about is that there's too many people at Qualtrics. Who do I go to for what? And so one of the things that we're looking to streamline is to have one XM lead per client to help narrow down and be more productive there. And last but not least, I think as most companies out there, automation and self-service are going to be absolutely key for us next year. So really helping our customers to self-serve more. And so we can spend more time doing added value work and removing the admin piece. Any other questions? I have 1 minute. Yes.
Yeah, sorry I missed the start. You covered this, but you mentioned aligning with cross-functional teams, product, marketing, and so on. Do you have like one tip or one bit of advice you had from gaining that alignment? Because I don't find that people are that interested all the time.
Oh wow! I only have 1 minute for that question. Lots of tips. Well, one of the things that we worked that was absolutely key to us, and it was beyond me, was removing arbitration with marketing. So, we had a situation before where, CS and marketing weren't fully aligned because we were fighting for that expansion, right? So removing that helped a lot with cross-collaboration and really working together. So that has been absolutely key to us. Really, really material change. With sales, I spent a little bit of time this morning, but for us it's not that continuous feedback loop where sales really understands what's really meaningful and what are the messages that are resonating with our prospects, and where we work and help and collaborate with sales is to bring in examples from our install base that can really talk and add content to those stories that we're trying to resonate. So a lot of it for now obviously is cost savings. So we know that is one of the key things that our customers really care about. So when we are meeting with sales, we're bringing examples of how our customers in the install base are actually gaining cost savings with some real examples on value realization and ROI. Yeah. And I think I'm up for time. Thank you very much.